Amazing title.
Amazing title, yeah. So you like mistakes too. Who else? Is anybody, okay, who in the room has a team or is on a team? Who's thinking about a team? Cool. So it applies to 100% of us. Cool. So this is our top 10 list because, well, quite frankly, they told me I only had an hour and I could fill a day with mistakes that we've made in building a team. So these are going to be the top 10 ones that we've seen. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm from California.
You did?
No.
Just
West
for this
Valley.
class?
West Valley.
I thought maybe you left San Diego for class or something. I'm like, it hasn't been that long since we've seen each other. So
Kevin almost thought he was more popular than he was.
yeah, I'm like, that's a lot of pressure to deliver. Now I can still be mediocre. I feel okay about it. So here's the deal. This says teams. I actually hate the word teams as it pertains to real estate because I view it as a business. And we could just get rid of the word team or business and just say like business period. It could be brokerage, and a lot of these things would apply outside of real estate too. However, these are the rules, or these are the things specifically that we've learned inside of our real estate company. I'll tend to say company or business and not team, and I tend to correct myself when I say team in case you're wondering why I talk weird. And my business partner Fred is not here. I saved you all from, trust me, right? Am I right, Carl? Sure, laugh because she knows. Get rid of that. So let's just jump into it. So mistake number one, and again, these are mistakes that we've made and we see other teams make fairly regularly, is don't underestimate how long things take and how much they cost. So, I don't like the way that's written. Essentially, yeah, because here's a motto that kept popping up as we really started building our team. I feel like I should go backwards and do a better introduction. I'll do it after I explain this one. Is every time we had something that we wanted to put in place, and it could be a big plan or like a smaller plan, but it's a change or it's something new, like this theme kept coming up, and everything costs more money and takes more time. Has anybody ever experienced that? Has anybody like flipped a house? Ever had that happen? Ever had that experience? Or maybe just renovated your personal residence? So the biggest mistake, one of the bigger mistakes that we've made, and I see a lot of other teams make it, is underestimating how long things take. I think as entrepreneurs and real estate people, we tend to be like drivers, go, go, go. And so we see the vision, we see where things could be, and I know for me, like it's already done in my head. Like well, I'm already there, like let's just go already. And quite often, and you might experience this since you used to work with such a visionary man, like sometimes there's something between point A and point B, but like we tend to just go to point B mentally and realize, and then I can do that, I'll do that in the next 6 months. It's like this saying, I think it actually should be credited to Bill Gates, as who initially said it, who most people underestimate or overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they greatly underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. And like to me, this really hits home with that, because we tend to go, okay, I got the vision, I got point B in mind, I'm just there, and so we think we're going to get there in a year, whatever that is, and the reality is it just takes longer. And I see a lot of people give up because it takes longer than they thought. And one of the things I've learned from my most influential mentor is that if the goal is the goal, it gives a shit about the timeline. Calendars are there for taxes. Like it's for the IRS. It's not so we can figure out if we're good, if we've won or lost in our personal and business goals. But we tend to operate that way. And so being okay with the fact that things just take a while is something that we've got to get used to as people out in the business world. So underestimating the length of time and how much they cost. I'll go backwards a little bit. You guys okay if I do that? Because I realize I did a really poor job telling you who I am. Not that I'm anybody, but I run a company called Group 4610. We are an expansion real estate team. Phoenix is home base. My business partner Fred and I started working together in 2008. We were in this little tiny room. Well, the office was big. There was only like 4 of us there, and those 3 of the 4 people are sitting in this room right now. Am I right or am I right?
There was 10.
There was 10. Like I forgot about Steve and Jennifer, but I could literally name everybody by name because there wasn't that many people. But 2008, my business partner Fred and I started working together. I'd actually gotten licensed earlier in 2007, mid 2007. We started working together February of 08, so just over 10 years. So home base for us is Phoenix. We built our business on short sales. So back in 2008, when everybody was either getting REO accounts or getting out of the business, we just said we're going to do short sales because it sounds like more fun. And quite frankly, neither one of us are capable of being an employee, which means I can't have an REO account. And so we built our business on that. Truthfully, because it allowed us to connect with people and build a database, and that was the hopes and plans of it. And we figured we could figure it out, and we did. And we started to build our business that way. And then over time, that morphed into a more traditional real estate team. I will not bore you with all the highs and lows, ups and downs. We eventually expanded our real estate team out of state. So we currently sell real estate in Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, 3 cities in Colorado, so Denver, Littleton, which are kind of like the same thing, Colorado Springs, San Luis Obispo, California, and Nashville, Tennessee. So that sounds a little weird, but the reality is it's not much different than like a team here. But instead of all of the agents being right down the office, they're just in different offices. And we've got a support staff at a building in Tempe that are fully licensed in every state that all 4 states we operate in. And they support our agents on a high level. In total, there's about 50 or so agents in our company. Last year, we sold just over 550 homes for about 150 million in volume. And we're on track to do about the same this year. Hopefully we'll get past that. But at any rate, so that's us. We've got a lot of systems in place. And as we've gone from these 2 bozos in this office in Scottsdale yelling at banks, disturbing Carl from down the hall, we've built a business. We've had to create a lot of systems. We've had to take a lot of hard lessons. Most of these. So I always say if I was teaching another class where I was giving tips, I'll just tell you if I say anything good, just know it's because I totally screwed it up before. I'm one of those people that genuinely believe we learn way more from failure than we do from winning. I think winning teaches us basically nothing. And so that's why this class is titled the way it is, plus I couldn't think of a better name. So, number 2 is having a shitty training program.
Can we go back to number 1 first?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've seen you come in, I saw you come into the market, and I've maintained my level of mediocrity the entire time. And I've seen you have huge success, I've seen you crash and burn, I've seen you come back, I've seen you do all these things, and now you're generating a business with, on average, 5 to 6 deals per agent, which you have some agents probably do 40, 50, right?
Yeah.
So you got this whole variance, and so that sentence makes, okay, I understand and I agree with you, okay? But when you're going into it, you think, oh, I'm not underestimating this. I got a vision of this is where, because that's her problem. I have this vision, and then it's all that in between part that I screw up. See, I didn't swear. I didn't use profanity when I said that. That's good. But Kelly wasn't here to correct me. So that sentence makes sense. How do you know? How do you know that you haven't underestimated how long it's going to take? It says, hey, don't do this. It's a mistake. Okay. Well, how do you avoid it?
You know, it's funny, somebody said something to me this week, and it was about a slightly different topic. It was more about lead generation in like a specific category. But there is a little bit of an art to knowing, like, should I keep going down this path or am I wasting my time? And I think that requires some, number 1, high-level self-accountability. Like, you got to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and know, are you doing the right things, are you actually making progress, or are you just wasting time? Okay, so I think that's part of it. I think it requires outside coaching. I'm not saying this to sell Jason's metrics or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I sat in a room with Gary Keller in 2010. I'll never forget this moment my entire life. And at the time, we were already top 1% of the company. And so it's just like the 70 or so top producers at Keller Williams. And he said to me, listen, look, if you're in this room and you're not writing a check to a coach, you're an idiot. Now, it's a small group and we're close and he can say that to us. And he would never say that on a big stage, but like the reality is I took that very seriously and I started writing a check to a coach that month and I've written one ever since.
You never actually spoke to the coach, you just wrote the check.
Well, but isn't it funny how when we have money on the line, like all of a sudden we tend to show up differently? Like, have you ever noticed that?
Well, how many people spend lots of money to be with a fitness coach or a diet coach, or, you know, you don't do the work, you don't get the result.
Yeah. But the level of intention tends to go up significantly when you write the check. It's kind of like, Fred and I will put on, so we put on these big
So we
events.
should have given you money to come to this class then.
Yes, well, the room would be packed.
Okay.
But you know what's funny? There is more attendance when you charge. And there's more value taken from it when, not because the information is different, but because the way the person receiving the information processes it. And they go, shit, I got $250 on the line here, better get my money's worth. Sorry, Kelly, you can edit that out if you want. I'm not trying to cuss, I just cuss. And I genuinely believe that. So, guy got to write a check to somebody. I do, and I've always had at least one coach in my life, and sometimes haven't had as many as like 3 or 4 for different areas of my life and or business. But I've had one business coach for sure, minimum, since December of 2010, and I can't imagine my life without it.
How many coaches have you been through, and how did you find your right fit?
I've had the same real estate coach since 2010. The one guy, I got lucky. There's some luck there, and I'm also willing to just be coached by him. You know what I mean? And now, yeah, after like 8 years, like he's like the father. He's like the wise father. Like he's forgotten more about business than I'll ever know. Like he's really, really, really intelligent. It's hard to find a good coach. So we did get lucky. And I want to acknowledge there's a lot of shitty coaches out there. And so we've got to do our homework and we've got to interview them. And we've got to find out, is this the right fit for me or not? However, even with the mediocre coach, that should, if we buy into it, that should be able to propel us forward further than we could go alone. And so, like, I got lucky. And I also, I think I know this much about you. I think you might be similar. I also seek out mentors. I always have. It's just been a thing I've done since I was a kid. And so, like, if I want to learn how to play, like, pool, for an example, I would just seek out whoever's amazing at pool, and I would become their friend, and I would find out what I could do for them, and I would just learn from them. And I would observe them. And I would read what they read, and I would do what they do. I've just always sort of done that, and I've found myself with, like, great mentors. And so you guys probably know who John Cheplack is, but when I wanted to work on a few things, I reached out to John. And John and I are just friends now, but I coached with him for probably 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, I don't know. A short period of time, but it was for a specific need. There's a guy in town he's an NLP trainer, communications specialist named Michael Burnoff, who's a dear friend of mine now. But when I need some help with something, I reach out to him. And like I'm always willing to just reach out. And I work hard to put myself in situations where I can have a mentor for whatever it is I'm trying to go to that next level on. I firmly believe in the rule of proximity, who are around. I drive 25 miles to my office. So would I love to drive a mile? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I just don't care. It's more important for me to be at the right place. And so, where I gotta write a check for someone or I gotta find a mentor or whatever, I just do whatever I can. So, back to the point of that, to your question is, I think you gotta have outside eyeballs, man. It can't just all be you, because you buy your own bullshit. And so does she to an extent, because you've worked together for so long.
Right.
It's called lying to herself.
Yeah. And we all do it on some level. And so we gotta write somebody a check so hopefully they don't buy it.
He is so good.
He's so good.
Coach. Why?
That's not good.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is.
But you're so good at that.
Your negotiation skills are so good that you can.
That's how great you are at your craft.
Like bullshit skills.
Are we okay to move on, Carl?
Okay, keep it.
Is that good?
Number 2.
We get number 2. All right, so at this pace, we're going to finish up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock at the latest. Happiness Shitty Training Program. So here's the one thing that we realized in our business is we wanted to grow it big. I mean, it's pretty big. There's 50 agents or so on our team. What we realized is like training everybody, like, hey, come sit next to me and do things like I do things, not a real effective way for training a lot of people. Once we had our system down and we wanted to grow it, we realized that we had to invest money into training people. And this is where I see a lot of teams who have the potential to go from like wherever they're at to whatever that next level is, right? And it's going to require more people. They don't ever invest money in training people. They just assume like, hey, if I hire Carl, great, he's a real estate agent, he should know what to do. Doreen should know what to do. Like it should just work out that way. And the reality is it doesn't work like that. Like people need some direction, and especially if you've got your own systems, they need some real specific direction on how things can be done best in your system. And so we're hardcore about this one. Like we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money into our training program. We've added to that recently too, as far as like what goes after training. But actually having a train, most people's training program I see, like it's a piece of paper and it's a checklist maybe, and that puts us ahead of like most teams that we're competing with for talent. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. So if you want to do something big, I believe you've got to have a training program that goes beyond a piece of paper and checklist. Number 3 is they think you're great at hiring and can spot talent easily. Who in this room has ever hired anybody, whether real estate or not? Okay, so a good portion of us. Who in the room has ever felt like maybe, okay, I won't make yours hand. I know I felt like I could just tell. Like, she says all the right things, she dresses nice, like she's got a license, she said, yeah, practice scripts every day at 8:30, she's gonna nail it. Like, has anybody ever experienced that? Okay, I have. And so as we started really growing our team, I was kind of the guy who went out in front and said, I'll go grow it. I'll go hire and recruit people. And Fred, my business partner, he's like the systems guy. I'm just going to throw stuff over my shoulder. You make it all work. So he was left working on the training thing, which was number 2. And then I was working on this right here. And what I found after interviewing, I don't know, 1,000+ agents, my crystal ball's broken. Like, I just can't tell. Like, the only indicator of success is success. And so if you've had some success in real estate previously, that's good. That's a good indicator. And it's absolutely not a guarantee that you're going to kill it in our system when we work together. It's not a guarantee. It's even harder if they haven't been in our industry to tell whether or not they will. Now, I've hired a guy that, like, the guy and the girl that, like, they dress nice and they say all the right words, and I will come to script. I will be there at 7 o'clock or 7:30, and I'll practice scripts at 8:30, and then I'll pound the phones from 9 to noon, and I'll make the cold calls and blah blah blah. And like those guys, like, they don't ever get off the ground. I've had so many of those people, like, they checked all the boxes and they never got off the ground. And I can think of like one of our top agents who's been with us for I guess about 3 years now. His name is Kelly, and when I first met Kelly, he is not the prototypical high-powered salesman. Like, he doesn't come off as if he's going to sell 40 houses a year with his eyes closed, which he does now. Yet there was something about him, and I just dug a little bit further, and so I got a lot more into when I'm hiring somebody, instead of going off like that gut feeling. And I've been, my mentor said to me before, if you go with your gut, it means you gave up on thinking. Gave up on thinking. So I think there's a lot to be said for your gut feeling on some things. And when it comes to hiring somebody, it's probably not the best way to go. And so having more of a process, and for me, that process, and why we had to have such a great training program, was because I needed to get more people through the top of the funnel to see if they could actually make it. Like, you just don't know until you know with somebody. Like, I know when I got my license in 2007, I walked into that real estate office, and the owner of that office looked at me, and I dressed about as nice as I do now, and except I still had a baby face and I had hair on top of my head. I know, I could tell, like, this guy, man, he feels bad for me. Like, Barry, like, he's looking at me like, you're not going to make it a year. You just don't know. Like, you never know. And so just stop trying to guess and predict, and have some baselines of, like, there are boxes that have to be checked. And we just got to the point where, okay, if you check the boxes and you're a good person, like, culturally, I think we can get along. And it's not like we have to be best friends and go hang out on the weekend, not that kind of get along. That's a whole other mistake I think people hire because they want to feel like their team, to feel like a family. That's great, but I think that's earned over time. Do they check the boxes, and then do they do the things? And if they can show up and do the things, then they're worth a shot. That's how I look at it. Like, I'm done trying to predict if someone can be successful or not. I don't care what your behavioral profile says. I do care. I want to see it because I'm curious of how I can best communicate with you. But I don't give a rip what it says. It doesn't mean you can or can't be successful in real estate sales. Any questions about that one at all?
I was just
Yeah.
about to ask what kind of stock keeping for those profile tests.
What's that?
I was just about to ask what kind of stock keeping for those profile tests.
From the hiring decision 0, I do like to see one for every candidate I meet with, because I'm just curious. Like, if I'm going to get into business with you, well, let me go backwards. If you're going to be a salesperson on my team, and I'm not going to interact with you every single day, and you don't necessarily report directly to me, I almost don't care at all what it says. I just want to know what it says so I can communicate with you more effectively when we're communicating one-on-one or something like that. If it's a position that reports directly to me, I care a ton. Probably half. But like, well, screw, that's not the right answer. Not half. However, if it doesn't fit a certain method that's going to work best with me, like, we just can't go to step 2. Does that make sense? But that so few of the quote-unquote positions in my company report directly to me. But knowing my behavior and being comfortable with who I am and the way I behave on a day-to-day basis, I know what's going to work well with me and not work well with me. Any other questions about that one? How are we doing on time?
It's 11:30.
Perfect. All right. Little to no investment in systems, technology, and people. I'm going to emphasize this for a second. This is a mistake that we made early on, and then as we wanted to go wide, we realized we had to have better people, better systems, better technology. The people one was never hard for me. I believe in, I actually have to do a talk tomorrow about hiring for some entrepreneurs outside of real estate. And I'll tell you what, one of the things I've written down was this quote. Basically, pay somebody twice as much as the normal person makes in their position, but that's worth it, like they've earned it, they'll do 4 times the work. Like, have you guys ever worked alongside someone that just happens to somehow get 3-4 times the work done that their peers do? I have, and it's worth the money. It's worth the money to pay people well. Like, I see so many.
I like Kevin a lot.
Sorry, dude. I see so many agents who actually have a decent sized business, and they're worried about what can I get for $10 an hour, or what can I get for 30 grand a year, or 40 grand a year. Screw that. What's the most talented person I can hire? The first time I hired someone that hired more than one person that took 6 figures in an actual salary to come work in our real estate company. Every time I've done that, it's paid off. I haven't done it a lot. But I remember the first one I made 3 years ago, a guy named Ross, 3.5 years ago. It wasn't quite 6 figures, but it was close enough to make me gold. And it was worth every penny. It was the hardest check I ever had to write the first time. And then every 2 weeks after that, it was the easiest check I ever wrote. Because the talent level of somebody who commands, say, $60,000 as an assistant in a salary guaranteed position, or $100,000 as, like, say, an operations person, versus somebody who commands $30,000 in the open market, the talent level is so different. So different. And so I see people cut corners there because they just want to save every penny they can, and they're not looking at how much more money could this company make by having these amazing people. So not investing in people. Technology is the same. I'll get to you in 1 second. Technology is the same. Guys, technology is like a big part of our industry. We all realize that, right? You guys know what percentage of the market Open Door is now?
In which market? Which submarket?
Phoenix. Just Phoenix Jet Metro.
Big one.
6.5 today. However, but then you add an OfferPad, then you can add in, is it Cerebus, the name of that big hedge fund that's buying up a lot of properties right now? Like, that's a lot. Like, Zillow's just put their first 4 homes under contract in Phoenix. Technology is here to stay. So there's 2 things when people react to the word technology in real estate, which is those companies that are coming to get our commissions. Cool, they're going to disrupt our industry, and that's okay. And there's a lot of technology that we can embrace to help us be better as salespeople and real estate salespeople. Like, there's just a lot out there. And so investing in those right technologies, whether it's a great CRM, like, don't use the cheap CRM, use the CRM that you'll use and that has the features that you can see yourself leveraging, and then actually take advantage of that. All the other tools like that. So having technology and then the systems that you use for inside your own internal processes, don't skimp there. Like that kind of investment, I'm not saying go write big checks for technology systems or anything like that, but I am saying write good ones. Like don't just not pick Boomtown or Commissions Inc. because you can get real geeks cheaper, as an example. Like if your business is at a place where it can command a system like that, then use the better system. Don't just go with the cheaper thing. Invest in something bigger. I saw a couple hands.
Yes. My problem is that I'm not, I mean, if I want to adopt a system or technology which I'm not very familiar with, how to pick up the right person, how to pick up the talent, and how do you choose who to pay what? Do you ask them
so how do you
much?
choose for hiring people?
No, how much, let's say a technology person, how do you know that you are not overpaying or underpaying him? How
Well,
do you know?
okay, so I'm not
you
necessarily.
ask them how much
Yeah,
do they
that's
want?
rough. I think that there's enough information. When I say technology, I don't necessarily mean like having an IT person on staff.
Yes.
Although some of us will have our companies to that point where we've got a couple developers on our team that work on our own technology platform, and that's been a learning experience for sure. We've certainly gotten our teeth kicked in on that,
Okay.
and it's been a process. But so what we were talking about, like as you're building your team, you don't necessarily need a technology person. You need to know what technologies are out there. You need to have a trusted resource.
But
of
by
somebody
the
you can
job,
go to.
let's say I need a job done, and should I go and ask how much do you want for this job, how much do you want for somebody else, how much do they want for the job? How to find out who the right person is?
That's another class, and that's about how to hire. That's another class. We would need 3 or 4 hours minimum for that. But that's just learning how to hire, because you can take that system into anything. When I need to recruit or hire somebody for business or personal for things, same system. So
Okay.
that's another class maybe we can do another time.
I have a question with these other real estate companies coming in, like Open Door, OfferPad. Do you think that's where us realtors have to shift towards doing the exact type, close to that type of service?
Well, I think that we're silly for not utilizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like like the Facebook group that we started, Next Level Agents. Like there's a lot of chatter in there about like Zillow and OfferPad and Open Door, and I think there's 2 ways to approach it. There's the put your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist, or what you're trying to do right now, which is how do we do this? I think we got to embrace it. We're not stopping OfferPad and Zillow and Open
Right.
Doors.
Yes.
You guys get that right? Open Door alone is 6.5% of our market. It's happening before our eyes. So how can we partner with them? How can we use what they have as an advantage for us when we go, say, on a listing appointment? How can we maybe bring value to our client by showing them, here's what happens when you have OfferPad, Open Door, etc., Zillow. Here's what happens when I sell your house. Here's the differences. What do you think might be better? And I think we've got to embrace that and just know it's part of the market. And they're going to take a certain percentage of deals away from us, but I think there's also a way to work with those. Like I know that Zillow is working through agents. OfferPad now has Open Door has a program where they're trying to work exclusively with some agents who can bring them listing or buying opportunities. And I think we got to look for those advantages rather than trying to fight against them.
Right.
Just know that they're there.
I just feel that, like, I try to do some research on it and see how they break down their fees and things like that, and how they try to keep the value of the home up here, but then they have all these fees underneath that
Yeah.
to the seller. And so my thought is, as us agents, we can do pretty close to them, not at a high level like they can, and give our sellers more net if we're willing to learn the process.
Yeah. Do you guys know Steve Valentine?
Yes.
Kelly,
Yeah.
get Steve in here to teach a class on how to do that.
Right.
Steve's super passionate about this. That's why I said that.
And that's, I did to speak, and that's kind of what got me in
Did
my
you?
mind, and then Travis, to kind of, start going in the direction of what Open Door does.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, not that level.
Who's been in real estate for more than 5 years in the room? Okay, so for those of you that just raise your hand, whether you look at your CRM or just your phone book, you have some investors that'll buy a deal if it makes sense. Like, yeah, you just call them if it pencils out, they'll buy it tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, we all have those. We all have those. We should be bringing those to the table. If we're not the ones buying it, which is what Steve's really passionate about,
Right.
then we have the connections for it, so why not? Like, I could literally call I've sold so many houses on a text message when it was a situation like that, because I've got these other people. So now I'm just going to view Open Door and OfferPad as the same deal, potentially. Now, I'm going to take care of my friends more, probably, right? But I'm also going to, the person I'm going to take care of the most is who I have fiduciary with, which is going to be the client.
Right.
But I'm going to go make sure the way you take care of them is by having all options. We can all sell a house like that. So yeah, I think we should be.
But my last 3 deals were competing against Open Door and kind of doing the same thing like they do, and so I just put it out there like with investors.
It's funny, Open Door just helped us get a deal we weren't going to get.
Right.
I could deal with that.
Yeah.
I drew to Steve and he said, bring an offer from Open Door.
Yeah.
I'll go to this one, here's an offer.
Yeah.
Now we'll get this beat by other investors.
Here's this, or here's what happens if I list your home and take this long, and this is the money you should get, and which one sounds better to you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller?
Or in the middle.
Here's the advantage, right, if I can chime in for a second. So OfferPad offers very little money to the seller. They have high amount of fees.
Right.
So seller is not getting enough, versus you can compete and you can actually get in the market price. They are paying a lot less than market price. Their strong point is advertising, and they're advertising on YouTube and all these. They have a giant advantage of reaching out to be able to millions of people. But if you're working as a buyer's agent, Open Door still offers you 3%, just like anyone else.
Yeah. So why not work with them? Yeah. Why,
Isn't your pre-market listings?
yeah, why not just take advantage of, like, they're here? It'd be kind of like, all right, so I'll use a car analogy because I love Tesla. I love Tesla. I bought one
You
because
know who Tesla is? Definitely.
yes, I do know who
Oh,
it is.
good for you.
And which makes me just love the name even more.
Uh-huh.
So I love Tesla cars. I'm not a car guy. I'm just not. But I love what they're doing to the car industry in a big way. And for the other car companies, for a while, they're just going, oh, no, we don't have to worry about this. And now every single major car company out there is like, yep, we'll be fully electric by this time. But 5 years ago, they're like, that's so stupid. Elon Musk was crazy. And who knows, maybe Tesla will crash and burn, but he's completely changed the industry. So you could either ignore it, and if you did, you'll be Blockbuster. Or you could go, okay, cool, Netflix is here, let's adapt. That's it. Like, you understand that Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow is Netflix. You're Blockbuster. Survive. There's still plenty of people who watch movies. Become Redbox. Whatever. Make yourself someone different.
And in the high-end market, they are just not dominating.
Yeah,
They just can't.
there's
Yeah.
too many factors in a
Right.
high-end market. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go after high-end listings.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
There are areas they will not.
Oh yeah, they gotta be certain. They gotta be built in a certain range. Like
But
they
they
can't be more
will, if you
than.
reach out to them and get an offer as an agent, they will, we have had two deals with Open Door, and I, as a buyer's agent, I worked on an Open Door one too, and they are really easy to work with.
Yeah.
You know.
We've had nothing but good experiences.
They're
with
buying
them.
market share. I mean, they're doing
Yeah.
deals that were like, really? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll sell it to you.
Because they have enough
Yeah.
money to figure this out, and if they didn't, Zillow
We
definitely
just have,
does.
as agents, get the word out there, we can offer
Yeah.
the same, or putting that, doing the same thing where the buyer doesn't have to do repairs. They, they don't have to
They can
worry
just-
about
yeah.
this. We do the same thing, we just don't
And
have
we
the
can
word out
actually,
there.
yeah. And instead of what I see, because like, so I've got, for those of you who don't know, like I've got a Facebook group, it's about 23,000 realtors, and a lot of times the posts are people bitching about Zillow and stop giving them your money, you're feeding the competition. Okay, focus on that or focus on solutions. It's your choice. I'd rather not be Blockbuster.
I took the shift already.
But do you see going forward that these type of companies will dominate the market and they'll be
Dominate? All right, I'm going to go on, but I'm going to answer
What's
that.
number 5?
Here's what I believe. I believe that nobody can ever get in between me and my actual sphere built relationship. And if they do, I'm gonna be able to make sure I can facilitate it and make sure that they're protected. So I think, yeah, there's a certain amount that's gonna go away. Currently, that's at about 10% in our market. Soon that'll be 20. They don't track the metrics that drive the business. So as an example, on a lower level, because this is the way we started with our tracking, was as a listing agent. Like I literally just started writing down when I had a listing appointment. Who was it with? What was the lead source? Did I get it? Yes or no? That's it. Like that's it. That was telling me everything I needed to know at the time. most people just don't track things like that. And so they don't know where their problem is. Like my problem was converting at the table when I started getting good at regular listings. My problem was not at getting the appointment. So now I need to know how many people am I setting appointments with that actually show up. And then if I'm not setting enough appointments, then I know it's before that, it's in the call. How many calls am I making? How many contacts, conversations am I having every day? So not tracking the metrics that drive your business. We chose appointments and moved forward. Some people start at the number of phone calls. I think you just got to pick the metric that you know. The other thing that we track heavily in our business is how many contacts with our sphere of influence. 5 a day. 5 a day is what we teach.
You still do cold calling?
We don't really, I mean, unless you count calling back internet leads cold, we don't do any cold calling. Maybe for open houses, circle prospecting. Mistake number 6, they try to be perfect and avoid making mistakes. The number one way to make a mistake is to try to avoid making a mistake. Like you guys realize like when I'm not going to get into all that, but like if you focus on something, like you just move yourself closer to it. So a lot of people tend to go, I just don't want to screw up, right? And I get that. I don't think anybody actually wants to screw up, but we should get okay with screwing up because it's business and we're going to make mistakes and we're people, and all people make mistakes. So we've got to give ourselves a little grace. It's not try to be perfect. Biggest revelation that this came from was 2014. I was in Seattle, Washington with Ben Kinney. And if you know Ben, you know that he sells a ton of houses. I think his team probably do 2,000 to 3,000 in sales this year. At the time, they were doing about 700 a year, and about 450 of those were in Bellingham, Washington, which is like 80,000 people. So imagine that, like 400 plus transactions in an 80,000 person town. And so we're out there to basically shadow Ben and kind of learn from him, seek out mentors. And what I noticed after like day 2, so Ben would do this thing where he'd say, hey, go shadow this person, this department, and come back and we'll talk about it. Then he would send me off to the next department and come back and we'd talk about it. We'd go to lunch and then we'd go home, we'd go home and go to dinner and we'd talk about what I learned that day. And on day 2 I realized that I kept saying, what the hell do they do that? So I'd like go sit in their listing department. I'm like, God, they're so sloppy. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And I finally realized, who cares why they're doing that? They're selling 700 houses a year and you're selling 150. My systems are perfect, and we have great systems, but I was selling 150 houses a year and he's selling 750 houses a year. That's a big difference. And so it was just kind of a big change for us. And so we got to not be afraid to make mistakes. We got to be willing to let it get messy and make mistakes and learn as you go. My friend Cody always says that it's kind of like building a plane as you're flying it. Just got to get comfortable with that. And if you're not, like if you know that about your personality, that you're not that person, you need to be in business with somebody who is, whether that is like somebody that works for you, a business partner, or a team that you're on, but you've got to be around somebody who can operate that way. That's a basic principle of success in the real estate, in business period. It's not real estate. It's just business. Number 7, the calendar
Can you
doesn't.
go back to that?
Yes. There's always one in every room.
It means push the button and don't overthink it.
I understand, I get that, and I don't disagree.
Do you want to be perfect about this slide before we move on?
The problem is, when you're trying to build a plane as you're flying it, there is a significant possibility that if you try to build too much of it before you take off, you will crash and then you will die. Okay? So, so I mean, there's there's a balance here that's easy to just move on to slide 7.
So the good
okay?
news is that we're talking about real estate and not actual planes. I had a transaction kill me. I've had some clients I wanted to kill, and certainly a few members of our staff that I've wanted to kill, and I'm sure have wanted to kill me.
But
I've
you don't go
actually had
into
a
it going, oh, I can't wait to, sorry, Kelly, insert profanity, this up, okay?
Well,
you
no,
don't go into it. You go into it
I just
thinking
don't
you've
care
got to
that I
figure it
do.
out.
I just don't care. I am totally okay screwing up. I'm just totally okay with it. Because you know why? My ego's not so attached to that outcome that I'll follow that down a rabbit hole.
You have to know when to stop, though. I've
Yeah,
followed
when it's
down
not
that.
going well, stop.
Common sense.
If you're bleeding, it's kind of like, so we have what we call a performance coach in our company. He coaches all of our agents. And he was sharing a story. He's got an 18-year-old daughter who was going to Surprise, and she called him one night. They had left they met some up for like dinner or whatever, and she was going back to Surprise where her school is. He was going home, and she calls him like 2 hours later, and she's like, "Dad, I don't know where I'm at." He said, "What do you mean you don't know where you're at?" She said, "Well, it's dark. There's no more street lights. I don't know which direction I've gone." And he said, "Okay, have you stopped and turned around yet?" She said, "No." And he said, "Stop. Turn around." It's that simple sometimes.
Okay.
Now, she was totally lost. She needed a little more guidance. You might want to have a coach for that.
Yeah.
And you gotta stop. Like when you're going the wrong direction, stop and go back the other way and regroup. When you're making a huge mistake, somebody said to me this way, I was at a mastermind meeting with a bunch of entrepreneurs outside of real estate a couple weeks ago. Somebody said sometimes the best method for completing a project is to just stop, just like quit the project.
That's a good answer.
Running out of time. Thank you. I'm good at screwing up, so I've got great answers about screwing up. Your calendar doesn't promote success. What I mean by that is your calendar has everything on it. So it's one of two things. Where I see people make mistakes with their calendar is either nothing's on it, and I say calendar, they're like, "What the hell do you mean calendar? You mean the app on my phone?" And I'm like, or they'll go, "Yeah, look at it." And they got 8 colors. And every minute of every day is like color coded out, and they follow none of it. And so when I say a calendar that promotes success, now, calendar that promotes success is going to depend on who you are and what your goals are. And so for me, it's what are the most important things that I got to do every day, every week, every month. And that's what goes on my calendar, not every day. What goes on my calendar is what I need to do every day that I've decided is the most important, that if I don't do anything else, I don't care, I can still sleep at night. Like, I'm okay with messy, just like I'm okay with failing, I'm okay with messy. And so, if I don't get all of the other crap done, I'm okay with it. I leave time for the other crap because I don't want to schedule my entire day. I want to schedule the most important things. So maybe that's like scripts practice and calling your sphere of influence and whatever the other lead gen is, right? Maybe that's it. And then the afternoon is for appointment. Maybe you got 2 slots for appointments with buyers or sellers, whatever that might look like. Or if you're in a different position, in a different role, maybe it's something else. And but it's not everything. Not everything can be equally as important. They're not. Like, you ever like heard the term sense of or priorities? Like, you can't have priorities. You can have one priority. They're not all the same. Something has to be the most important in a given moment. And the way I know what's most important in a given moment is I put it on my calendar ahead of time. And so just do that. And so literally, this sounds dumb, but I've gotten dumber in it with my age. I'll go, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I'll just look at my calendar. Like, I look at my calendar before I go to bed. I look at it first thing when I wake up. And I'll look at it 17 times during the day to make sure what I'm doing now or next, like I'm prepped for. And so your calendar's got to promote success. And to me, that means it's like the 2, 3 things that are most important. And the most important is whatever's scheduled in that hour. Nothing else should happen. I don't take phone calls from friends, family members, clients, Facebook, text messages, whatever. I do that thing, and it's hard to do. It's not like I'm perfect. I'm saying that like I'm perfect at it. I'm not. I'm pretty good at it. But I think you've got to figure out what's most important in your world, what gives you the most leverage in your life and in your business. That goes on the calendar. Do that, and then it's kind of like fire putting out time. Cool. Afternoons for whatever happens. Any questions about the calendar? You look at me like you want to say something. If we place too much emphasis on early success or new things, and I would even add it to this new people. So it's so funny, because it talked about most people not wanting to actually really pay for talent. But a lot of times the other mistake I'll see is we've hired somebody, or whether that is a staff member or a salesperson, and they're a rock star. She's so amazing. How's it going? How's it going with her? She's amazing. She's like the best hire ever. Really? Oh yeah, she's a rock star. She's gonna kill it. Cool. How long has she been? 2 weeks. And I'm like, you guys ever had that conversation or overheard that conversation? Like with somebody when they hire someone and they're like so ready to go, like this is it. This is it. I found the one. I found the unicorn. And what happens is we tend to go, yep, I got it. We start mailing it in with that person right there. because they hit some early success. I'm totally guilty of this. The reality is we've got to prove over time. So whether it's a lead gen thing, whether it's a person, a routine, or whatever, we can't place too much emphasis on early success. We've got to look at it very like black and white and over some period of time. But it's not like we can't just declare people rock stars or declare this the best lead source ever. So let's get now, instead of spending $1,000 a month, let's spend $5,000 a month. Like, let's not do that until it's proven. And proven doesn't mean early like signs of success, it actually means success.
That sounds like how I date.
That's so funny. I wasn't gonna use I wasn't gonna use you as an example, but I almost used dating as an example. Because when you date, they don't show up; their representative shows up, right?
Exactly.
For the first date.
It's too early to tell until.
Yeah, you don't really
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't get all excited or anything. Like,
Cool. They showed up that way. That's good.
I'll
See
see
if
who
show
they
up
are in
later.
a year.
Like, over time, everything exposes itself.
Exactly.
Over time. So we don't waste too much time. But I think that going back to one of the other ones, like where we're talking about the calendar is for the IRS for holidays and stuff. Like, it doesn't matter for us. Like, there's no like, I gotta do this. I know they teach us to set SMART goals, and that T stands for time, and so it's got to be the time frame. I don't know. I think if it's a really big goal, the time frame doesn't really matter. Like, if it's important to you, like if you wanted to build, so like Mark and Jeremy decided, we want My Home Group to be the #1 brokerage in Arizona or in the country. Does it really matter if it happens in 20 years or 17 years? Does it really matter? Or does the fact that they said, like, if that was really the goal, doesn't that matter the most, not the time frame? So I think we get attached to these time frames that just mean nothing because we're told we have to put T at the end, like T for time on the SMART goals. I just think it's silly. Spending time to get ready, to get ready, to get ready. So maybe you have met that new agent in the office and they've got the best business cards of anybody in the office and their website's almost ready. It's almost up. It's not quite up. And they're learning the contract. And they're learning this, and they've got the best flyers too. Oh, by the way, open house signs. They got the ones with the flags, and they're awesome. And this is open, and it waves back and forth in the wind. And they're probably also going to hire a sign spinner for their first open house. You know that guy? You know that girl? Don't do that. Stop doing that. Just go and learn from your mistakes. There's so much to be said for just like ready, fire, aim. Fix it. Ready, fire, aim, fix it. Ready, fire, aim, fix it. Ready, fire, aim, fix it. You're never going to be perfect. It kind of goes back to, I think it was like number 2. Like, you're just not going to nail everything. So just get comfortable with the fact that you're going to screw up and then fix it. And then screw up. Like, we call it the suck less plan. So like, for instance, we had a problem, we still have a problem, with the number of leads that our agents have. Our agents in our team have too many leads. And so what happens is they're skimming the top and they're not going deep anywhere, and that's a big problem when you're talking about a people business and building relationships and being deep with people, considering the stats on how and when people buy once they start thinking about it. And so we created a plan to kind of shift the way leads are distributed, shift the way we handle leads and how many everybody can have in their Boomtown account. We shifted all that, and it was really easy. A couple of our top people started picking at the plan. They're like, yeah, but we should do this and we should do that. So I'm like, I know, we should all just do our job like really well, and none of this would matter, but this is the suck less plan. So this plan for our leads is going to be less sucky than what we're currently doing, and we're going to get here, and then we're going to level off, and then we're going to start to suck less after that. Does that make sense? So it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes no matter what. And the biggest mistake most people make is actually trying to not make a mistake. So stop getting ready to get ready.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Like, how many leads do you give per agent? Like, what did you find as a max that could handle?
We're trying 100 leads, and their sphere.
What's
I
a
still
lead?
think that's too many.
What's a lead?
A person in their Boomtown account, a registration.
You have a way to operate that they can't get any more, and then
We have an audit process
Okay.
and a coordinator who does that. We have 5 minutes, so I'm going to go fast.
Okay.
Accepting minor setbacks is complete failure, which is, I think, what freezes us into number 9 and number 2. We think because I screwed up, it's the end of the world. I messed this transaction up, I'm a terrible agent, that person would never want to work with me, that buyer, I screwed up this relationship with the buyer agent who joined my team, and now no other buyer agent's going to want to ever work on my team again, whatever. We tell ourselves these stories, and the reality is not just, you're going to fail. Get used to it, get comfortable with it, and move on. Don't take a minor setback. Don't take a minor setback as a fatal crash of an airplane. You sound like I have 2.5 minutes, Carl. So go for it.
To paraphrase, what he's saying is, even though you see yourself as a total and complete failure, you really suck less than you think.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I think failure is not my problem. Is I like to, before I base jump and know if my chute's going to open,
Yeah.
I want to make sure my chute opens. You know, so I want to find out, you know, about what I'm doing, like what I just did about competing against open door and what I need to do. You know, I don't want to go into something blind.
So it's like a fine line to like not overanalyze.
Yes, and
to not just jump with no chute, right?
Yeah, but we had to do that. I mean, you still have to go, and we were struggling with that.
I
So
don't have a problem
we finally
going.
started getting offers and sending it to our, when we go on a listing appointment, or taking offers on our
So
listing.
the
and
offer
you
pad
just start
mastermind is
feeling-
next. Thanks for your time, guys. Any last questions?
Yes.
You in the back.
Actually, a couple questions if you don't
Okay.
mind. So when you're in the nitty gritty of when you're setting the team, number one, how do you decide who gets what percentage? Let's say
Like the split percentage?
yeah.
I believe that splits are derived based on value that the team provides. So what I mean by that is just like a brokerage, like we have to share the commission somehow, right? And so the amount of commission that should be shared to either the salesperson and or the company is based on the amount of work and the amount of value that the other provides the other. And so for us, it's a derivative. We actually have a couple different plans. We haven't always had that. But it's based on what I'm going to deliver to you. As an example, in our team, we have like our transaction coordinators quite literally do everything from contract to close. And for listings, they're licensed in every state we operate in. They negotiate repairs. Like that's heavy, heavy support. That's not pushing paper and saying you need to do this and just scheduling an appointment right with the inspector. That's heavier support. And so we pay lower splits, right, because of that than somebody who maybe not. Like if you don't provide that, then pay more. Pay a higher split. So I totally think it's derived based on what you're delivering. Because if I'm the agent on a team, I'm looking at every time we close a deal, for the amount of money that you got, what did you put into the business? And for the amount of money I got, what did I put into the business? It's an investment, is how I look at it.
Makes sense, but let's say if you are starting out a new team, you're just solo agent, and then you got too many leads, business is booming, and you would add some agents. You would create a team.
Well, I'm going to add some administrative support first,
Okay.
and so then now that split for that buyer's agent who I do hire is going to be derivative based on the amount of support I bring to that agent.
And let's say you hire someone who has equal amount of experience as you, similar amount of experience as you, then would you go 50-50, or how would you?
That has their experience level has nothing to do with what I'm willing to provide. It has to do with what I'm going to provide them. Like I'm being honest, I know that sounds like a trite answer. It's not. It's literally has to do with what the company's going to provide. The same, like you understand, like if you're the rainmaker and you're running a big team, like a big team where you're trying to make a couple $100,000, million, like you're going to hopefully take home 40% max of your income. So like I don't get 100%. I don't even get 50%. Hell, I don't get anywhere close to 50%. So it's going to be a derivative of the value. The difference is I'm guaranteeing that money to the people I pay every 2 weeks, and they're only paying when they close a deal. And so it's going to be totally a derivative of the value.
Is there a range in the industry?
I think 50-50 is the most common, but I would never tell anybody just to start at 50-50. So I think it depends. Like I know teams that do 50-50, but they don't even provide enough value for 50-50 in my opinion.
Money for nothing, chicks for free doesn't work.
Exactly, except in the music videos in the 80s.
Exactly.
And so, but I also know teams that pay a significantly higher split, and they're aware of what they bring value-wise to that agent or to those agents is very low from a cost perspective, and so they pay a higher split. I know teams that'll pay 60, 70, 75% splits. but they're barely providing anything support-wise. I actually know a team that pays 90% splits for some agents, and they literally provide almost nothing except the community.
Thank you.
And we're out of time.
I have time?
I
We're out
got
of time.
time. I got time for you.
All right, so just to go on to that,
Yeah.
because just let's go there for just a minute. I want to build a
Thanks a
team,
lot.
right? And I'm an individual agent. So many times I've seen people go, oh, I'm going to go bring in 3 buyer's agents, and I'm going to you
Yeah.
jump from step 0 to step 5, when in reality is, gosh, I've got all these extra leads. And there's an incremental process with which you go there, don't you think?
Yeah, if you had a coach, your coach could tell you that.
You like to tell the coach.
I mean, you could read the book,
Such a dick.
but you can talk to your coach once a week too.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for
Thank
coming,
you,
guys.
Kevin.
I really appreciate it. Some work in Germany to let me have more than 45 minutes next time.
Then you have to fill up the time.